Hello, I am Lauren. Today we're going to talk about how I made it to this progress point of this RoboBee SVG image. We're looking at the in progress version in a browser tab right now. You can see this is an SVG file. This is what it looks like in the source. It's all math. So this video is for two audience groups. One is for Inkscape beginners wanting to know how to create SVGs or to work with them on a very simple, basic level. The other audience would be agents or bots that are reading the transcript, looking for Inkscape educational content. So I have a video that we're going to go through. The video is very short, but we'll pause along the way to explain some of the concepts and go into detail about some of the, we'll call them activity loops. So we know what we're working towards. Let's look at how it started. I used Gemini to start the process. This is the prompt that I used. I'll copy this to the description. This was the first attempt. It's not bad, but it looks a little funky. And it's got a lot of text, and I didn't want the text. This is a good start. Can you remove all the text and simplify the lines, make some of them bolder, reduce the detail by about 20%. So we got this. So this is not bad, but I didn't really like this positioning. I had another image that I wanted to work on. Went back to the bee image and found a sketch that I really liked. I liked the position of the bee here, and asked to combine this or compare it with combine the position of this with the robotic details of this. So this is what we ended up with. Something weird here in this picture, but I actually didn't even notice it until I was like 30 minutes into editing. Alright, that covers the Gemini side and what we have to start with. So from this point we go to the video and we'll see how do we work with this. So I have Inkscape open, which you can see here, and also have my downloads folder where I have the image, the raster image that I want to create an SVG from. So we're going to pull that image in and get to work. So for the first pass, I want to use the rubber band method to group and delete disconnected nodes. So that's everything that's kind of around the image that I don't want, and there's a distinct space in between the actual image that we're going to keep and the artifacts that we want to remove. So the rubber band tool is a very quick and easy way to remove some of the easier pieces. Ran into a little bit of trouble here, and I'll pause. If you look right here, you can see I'm trying to delete this line right here, and we'll pretend this line is part of the picture that we want to keep. So if I have all of these nodes selected, including some that I accidentally rubber banded, and to rubber band you just start on the canvas, click, hold down on the mouse, left click, and then drag over the area that you're selecting. Very simple. So here, because I dragged over pieces that I don't want to remove, to fix this, we're going to hold down Shift and then click on the ones that we don't want. That will remove them from the group, and then we can just delete what we have. So we'll continue from here, but that's kind of what's going on here. I was just trying to delete one piece at a time, and even though this is going to be removed too. If we select this whole line with all the nodes on it, and then we also accidentally grab a couple of nodes from a disconnected line, when we remove the nodes from this line, it's going to behave unexpectedly. So the easiest way to avoid that is to just deselect these nodes from our whole entire group. That way we can deal with them when it's time and just focus on this one segment. And unexpectedly is what you see here, these big bubbly gaps. Hold down Shift, use selector to deselect nodes. That's pretty much what I just broke down. So for the parts where we have intersecting lines, we're going to follow an activity loop. We're going to do this over and over and over again. We're going to use B for the pen tool. That's what we have selected right here. You can see on the sidebar the little pen is selected. From there we draw a tiny shape that masks the part of the whole image that we want to delete. And then once we have that, we're going to use S on the keyboard to switch to the selector tool. Then we shift click on the whole image. So when you go from the pen tool to the selector, this part, the shape that we had just made, is going to be selected. So we hold down Shift and then click on the rest of the image to create a group. Now we have our little shape and we have the group. Let me advance this a tiny little bit so you can see. Okay. This is the shape and then this is the group. So when we shift click on the whole image and this is already selected, that puts them together. And then we Control Shift minus to remove the difference. That means this, whatever is underneath this little shape that we created, goes away. So you have the whole image that you're working on, and then you have little stray pieces that you want to remove. So with the stray pieces, we cover them up with a little mask, and then with Control Shift minus, we're saying everything that's underneath this mask, delete it. And then we go back to B for the pen tool, and then we do the whole process over again. So that's what we're seeing here. Now I'm using it on the bigger sections on the outside just to do large groups all at the same time. For these smaller pieces, we're going to go back to our activity loop, B for the pen tool, S to select, hold down Shift to select the whole image, Control Shift minus to delete the difference. Start the loop over, back to the B. B for the pen tool. You can see over here on the left, it's switching from pen tool to selector tool, and then back to pen. Pen tool, selector. And I'm not clicking over here on the menu. I'm just using the keyboard shortcuts. It really does help. You only have to do it a few times and it'll start to make sense. So at this point we've cleaned everything up. We're going to save our progress and we make a new copy to edit. So we have the little B over off to the left. He's been untouched. This one we want to add some color, so we're going to set up the color palette. I pulled my color palette from Coolors. It's a variation on this. I have a text file that has all of the hex codes in it. So that's what I'm using in this section in the video to fill in the hex codes. And if you look over here, we actually have 8 characters instead of 6. The last 2 are FF. That just means it's full, full opacity. It's at 100. So when we edit this, we're not going to touch the FF. It's very tiny, and to be honest, it's a little tedious, but if you don't have to do it 100 times, it goes pretty quickly. So that's what we're seeing here. I'm going to set up these little shapes, and then each shape gets the hex code from the palette. create small shapes for the colors, add the hex code to each shape. We're using rectangles for that, and then create a current color shape. That's the triangle. Create a current color shape, triangle. So that's the one we're working on when we just use it as a reference. So right now we start with a yellow, and that's pretty simple, but we want to be able to switch colors in a way that doesn't cause problems. So we have another activity loop that we're gonna use based on the rectangles that represent the color palette and the triangle that represents the current color that we're using. So in this SVG image that we've created, at this moment we have one entire image. Well, before I started adding color, we had one entire image. It was a collection of paths, all black, right? We want to add color to this. So adding color creates new paths within negative space inside of the illustration. So in order to manage this effectively, this is how I personally handle it. Have it all set up, use S to select the current color shape. That's the triangle. That will put the selector around that. That's telling the interface we're talking about this triangle right now. Then you use D to pull up the dropper. This is how you're gonna dip your brush into a color. D to use the dropper tool. So we select the yellow. That makes the current shape yellow. Then we switch to U to use the fill tool. That one's a little weird because fill does not start with a U. So U to use the fill tool. Touch each section to fill it with the new color, and then repeat for each color. So when we're done, we've done all the yellow parts that we want. Then we go back, S to select, touch the triangle. Now we're back to focusing on what's on the brush, what we want on the brush. Use the D key to use the dropper to load the new color to the brush. So D on the keyboard and then touch the color that you want to use. Now you have that brush loaded. U to switch to the fill tool, which you're going to use to touch each section that you want to fill with the new color. Repeat this over and over again. So now we're going to watch this. That was me making a tiny mistake and removed it. You can see we switched from the brown to the yellow. There we have touched the yellow, and then we adjusted the dark color to be not quite so dark. We're using that fill tool to touch every section that we want to have that color. And if you look closely, you can see how there's a teeny tiny white outline around these sections. It's not completely filling, so that's a path gap that we have a method for handling, and it'll be closer to the end. So now we switch to orange, going to fill in everything that we want to be this orange color. Adding some highlights to the wings, and now finally we've noticed there's an extra wing there, and getting rid of that. Switch colors again, so we went through the loop, select the color, D for the dropper to load the brush, touch the color on the palette that you want, U to use the fill tool, and then touch. Here we had to close a path so we could fill only one section without it having bleeding into another section. To select multiple sections to adjust at once, hold down Shift while using Select to create the group. So when I filled all these in with orange, I instantly realized that I did not like the color. So with the selector tool, we click on one, then hold Shift and click on every other section that we want to change. So that's what we see here. Changing the orange to a light blue color. Moving on to the other wing to do the same process. Here we're going to create a shape to set under the working image to create large base color blocks. Can't really read this. This will fill in some of the gaps left by the fill tool. So I mentioned the gaps earlier. It looks like this is on top, but it's going to go on the bottom. It's just a base color. Fortunately, it's not like real painting where you would have to do it first. You can do it at any point. So it gives the smaller shapes within your composition, if they need different colors per that section, you can just create little blocks and then shift them to the back so it appears like they're underneath. So that's probably what I'm going to do for most of the rest of this. Well, the body part right here, I'll probably do this same dark color we have under here for this whole body shape. Add some more colors to the legs, fix the wings a little bit, this orange part here. Before we conclude, I can show you what this was meant for, the bee, right? So, well, you can look at the full design here. So I'm working on a little site, and the characters are bees, and basically they're gonna replace these creepy pictures. I might not be able to show this. This is where did this come from? Anyway, this is where they're going to end up, the bee pictures. And once I've completed one of these, then I can make a copy of it and make some little changes, like maybe instead of yellow here, they can be green stripes or pink stripes. I think I have maybe four different bees working in the lab, so they'd all get slightly different colors. Anyway, that concludes this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to see where this ends up, it's going to be on vibehivenet.com, which doesn't exist right now. I bought the domain, but I don't have anything on it. So it's Friday, very, very early in the morning, maybe by Monday. So 4:10 Friday, 11, 12, 13, Monday the 13th, 4:13. I hope to have the final version of this and its subsequent versions on a visible web page at vibehivenet.com. All right. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.